Moving on now, the Central Information Commission has rejected a plea for making public the details of donors of political parties who donate through electoral bonds. Now, upholding the arguments of the State Bank of India, the CIC has said that the information sought by an RTI activist are personal in nature and that there is no public interest in disclosing the details of the donors of political parties. The activist had approached the Information Commission after SBI turned down his request, saying that the electoral bond scheme of 2018 does not permit them to share confidential information. Those are the latest details as far as this particular issue is concerned. Remember, political donors to remain anonymous, and CIC has refrained at this point in time from making the details public. This has been a big controversy for some time now about the entire issue of who the donors are and whether or not they should be made public or remain anonymous. Let me, in fact, go across to Tanima, who's joining us for more details. Tanima, over to you.
In fact, as you were saying, let's take a look now first at what was the plea which had come in front of the Chief Information Commissioner. In fact, the plea had been filed by an RTI activist from Maharashtra. It had sought details of donors of the SBI electoral bonds. Now, these are, of course, one of the main electoral bonds which are used in terms of political donations for parties. The Chief Information Commissioner, after looking at the RTI, actually came up with the observation that information sought by the RTI activist was actually personal in nature. And if you go into the following point, which is important, the Commissioner also said that no public interest, there is no public interest which is served in revealing details of donors of political parties. Now, remember, this is very important and also probably to be kept in context with the fact that in January, at that time, the CIC had in fact issued a notice asking for the political parties to actually give out details of people who were donating anonymously to the parties. Remember, this had come up in January earlier this year, but now we are seeing that based on this RTI, which had been, which had in fact reached the CIC, this is the observation or the final conclusion which has been drawn with regard to this particular RTI plea, where the activist had sought details of SBI electoral bonds and the people who were making donations through that.
Yes, absolutely, Tanima. And also, if you could very quickly explain to us what are electoral bonds.
Very important to understand. So electoral bonds are essentially tools which are used very commonly. They had been introduced a couple of years back. These are tools which are used to make political donations in our country. Now, it's like a promissory note, a bearer instrument like a promissory note through which donations can in fact be made. It's payable to bearer on demand. And also the last point, if you look at, it's used to make donations to political parties. So as I said, this is of course one of the methods which had been put in when this entire tool had in fact been introduced by the government. It was done in order to make political donations way more transparent. But then, of course, there are questions which are being raised by several opposition parties also in the past, and in this particular case by this RTI activist, like whether or not the names of the people who are making these donations, whether that should be made public, because whether or not there's an intent behind some of these donations, whether there's quid pro quo in some cases. So those things, whether there is a lack of transparency with regard to that, those are questions which have been raised in the past. But with regard to this particular reply, which we have seen from the Chief Information Commissioner, essentially saying that there is no major public interest which is being served if these details are revealed.
All right, Tanima, thank you so much for joining us with those details.